Hello, today we're going to go over Unit 1, Day 5 notes, which is just word problems for this unit. Now, if you notice at the top, I have given you 4 steps. These steps are very generic. They really don't help you solve any specific problem, unlike the steps I have been giving you, or the 6 steps I gave you to be able to solve multi-step equations. These steps kind of guide you through a process, but it really doesn't indicate what specific things will help you create the equation. With that being said, for this unit, for these notes, I would prefer for us to try to create equations from the problem and then use those equations and solve them to get our answer. Now, I know that a lot of these problems you're going to be able to work them out by not creating an equation, and that's perfectly fine if you decide to do that on the test. But I also want you to have the background knowledge to be able to look at the problem, create an equation, solve the equation, and get your answer that way. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to example 1. Nick opens a savings account with $50. Each week after, he deposits $15. And how many weeks will he have saved $500? Well, let's start off by identifying what the x is going to be in this equation. Well, what are we looking for? We're looking for the weeks. Weeks it takes him to save $500. So my x is going to represent the weeks. Now, step 2, let's create an equation. We started out with $50 in the bank account, okay? Plus, he's planning to deposit $15 each week. And that will hopefully eventually result in $500 in the bank account. Now, of course, the part where it says each week, we don't want that. We can replace it with something else. We can replace it with x because we said that each week and weeks is represented by x. So instead of the each weeks, let's change that to an x so it can be 15x equals 500. Well, there's your equation. Let's move on to step 3 and let's solve this problem. So let's jailbreak the 50 to become a minus 50. Then you're left with 15x equals 450. And then you want to divide by 15. So your x is 30. And it's always good to take your calculator and check, especially if you end up having a problem like this on the active part. So my answer is 30, so that means it will take Nick about 30 weeks to be able to collect $500. Okay, example number 2. The cost to rent a truck for a day is $42.95 plus 18 cents per mile. How many miles did Derek drive the truck if you paid $54.11 to rent the truck? Well, step 1, what does the x represent in this equation? Well, what are we looking for? We're looking for the miles. How many miles did he drive this truck? So my x is going to be the miles. So with that being said, let's create an equation. Just to rent the truck itself, he was charged $42.95. So that's the base fee. So I'm going to just go ahead and write that down. Plus, he's also going to get charged 18 cents per mile. Well, if you notice the word per mile, I don't want per mile, okay? But we said that x represents miles, so instead of the word mile, we're going to put x. So my next one is plus 0.18x will result in a total cost of $54.11. And there's my equation. So I'm going to rewrite the problem just so I can have some space to work it out. Now, first thing I want to do is jailbreak this 42.95, and I'm left with 18 cents x equals 54.11. Take away 42.95 gives me 11.16. Then I want to divide by 0.18, and I'm left with 62. So it will take Derek, or according to the problem, Derek drove the truck for 62 miles. Okay? Moving on to the next problem. It says Aaliyah had $24 to spend on 7 pencils. After buying them, she had 10 pencils or $10. How much did each pencil cost? Now for this problem, I'm not going to work it out, but I will pause the video so you can have some time to work it out. And I'm basically going to give you the answer for this problem, and I'm going to move on. So Aaliyah actually spent about $2 per pencil. So your answer should have been x equals 2. Okay? And if you're curious about the equation was 24 minus 7x equals 10. And the x represents the price of a pencil. Okay? Moving on. If you flip to the back or to the second page of the notes, we're moving on to 4.1. Now, the sum of 3 consecutive numbers is 72. What is the smallest of these numbers? Well, you should know that consecutive means numbers that are back to back to back. So an example will be 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, 9, 11, 12, 13. That is what consecutive is. So we need to be able to create three expressions to represent these 3 numbers. So let's say we're going to start with our first number, which is going to be represented by x. Now let's figure out what's my second and my third number are going to be. So let's give ourselves an example, okay? Let's say my example is 1, 2, 3. Now, how can I use the first number to get to the second one? You add 1, so let's do that. X plus 1. How can I use the first number to get to the third number? You add 2, so that's what I'm going to do for my third number, x plus 2. So there's my expression for the 3 numbers. Now they tell me that the sum of the 3 numbers is 72. So let's do that. Let's do the first number plus the second number plus the third number equals 72. So my first number we said was x. My second number was x plus 1. And my third number is x plus 2. Now if you notice, there's your equation, and you can easily solve this. X plus x plus x, 3x. 1 plus 2, 3 equals 72. Now, if you jailbreak this over to the other side, you're left with 3x equals 69. And then you want to divide by 3. So x equals 23. Now, of course, you will want to go back to your original expressions and plug in this 23 so you can get your numbers. So the first number is 23. If you plug in 23 here, 23 plus 1 is 24. And then 23 plus 2 is 25. So your numbers are 23, 24, and 25. But the question was, what is the smallest of these numbers? And the smallest would be 23. Yeah. Moving on to the next problem. It says find 2 consecutive even integers whose sum is 54. Now for this one, we're dealing with 2 even numbers. And let's say my first even number is just x. Now I need to figure out what the expression is for the second number. Well, give yourself an example. Let's say we have 2 and 4. How can I use 2 to get to 4? Well, it's x plus 2. You want to add 2. So there's my 2 expressions. And of course it says that the sum is 54. So I should do the first number plus the second number equals 54. So the first number is x. The second number is x plus 2 equals 54. So x plus x is 2x plus 2 equals 54. Jailbreak the plus 2 to become a minus 2. And you're left with 2x equals 52. And then you want to divide by 2. And so your answer is 26. Of course, go back and plug in that 26 to see what your two even numbers are. So your two even consecutive numbers are 26 and 28. Now, take a moment to work out 4.3. 4.3 is exactly like 4.2. The only difference is that you're dealing with odd numbers, consecutive odd numbers, but the equations should still, the expressions should still be the same. Okay, so your first odd should have been x. Your second odd should have been x plus 2. And basically, when you solve your equation, you get 63. So this is 63, and then when you plug in for the second number, it's 65. So your two numbers are 63, 65. Okay, moving on to example 5. When 12 is subtracted from 3 times a number, the result is 24. Okay, so we have 3 times a number, and 12 is subtracted from that, so minus 12. And the result is 24, okay? So there's your equation. Solve. And then divide by 3. So x equals 12. Okay, moving on. The length of a rectangular backyard is 6 more than the width of the backyard. The perimeter of the backyard is 44. What is the area of the backyard? Well, I will start off by drawing myself a rectangle, and we need to figure out what the length and the width are. Now, the length looks a little bit more complicated, so I'm going to leave that as the second thing I need to look for. But the width, it could just be something generic as our like x. With that being said, they're telling me that the length is 6 more than the width. So 6 more than the width will be 6 plus x. So let's plug those expressions into our picture. And there you go. Now, of course, they also gave me more information. They said the perimeter is 44. So we're talking about the perimeter. You should know that the perimeter is side 1 plus side 2 plus side 3 plus side 4 equals the perimeter. Well, side 1 could be x. Side 2 could be x plus 6. Side 3 could be x again. And side 4 could be x plus 6 equals the 44 that they told us about. So there's my equation that I'm solving. So let's go ahead and combine like terms. X plus x plus x plus x, 4x. 6 plus 6, 12. Equals 44. Now, of course, if you're solving, you would like to jailbreak the 12 and then divide by 4. So I'm going to move the 12 over here, and you're left with 4x equals 32, and then you want to divide by 4. So x equals 8. Now, of course, you're not done because they asked me for the area of the backyard. So I need to figure out what the length and the width are. So the length will be 6 plus the x, which is 8. So what's 6 plus 8? 14. And then, of course, the width is just 8. So they asked me for the length. They asked me for the area. Well, here's my width. Here's my length. How do you find the area? Length times width, which will be 14 times 8, which gives me 112. And that is my answer. 112 square feet. Okay? Now, for example 7, instead of a rectangle, we have a triangle. And they are giving me the sides of this triangle to be x plus 2, 2x minus 4, 3x plus 4, with a perimeter of 122 inches. What is the measurement of the smallest side? Now for this one, I don't have that much space, so I'm going to work it out on a separate sheet of paper, okay? So I'm going to start off by drawing myself a triangle, and I'm going to put the sides on this triangle. Now, if we're dealing with perimeter, that means we're going to do the first side plus the second side plus the third side equals 122, or equals the perimeter. So side 1 could be x plus 2. Side 2 could be 3x plus 4. And the third side could be 2x minus 4. So you're basically just adding the three sides of the triangle and making it equal to 122. So let's go ahead and combine our like terms. X plus 3x plus 2x is 6x. 2 plus 4 minus 4 is just plus 2. Equals 122. Now let's jailbreak. (122) minus 2 is 120, and then you want to divide by 6. So 120 divided by 6 gives me 20. So they asked me, what is the measurement of the smallest side? So let's take this and plug it into our expressions. So the first one, 20 plus 2 gives me 22. Next one, 20 times 2 minus 4, that will be 40, minus 4 is 36. 3 times 20 plus 4, that will be 60, plus 4 is 64. So what is the smallest side? 22. So my answer to this problem is 22. What is the measurement of the smallest side? Okay. If you have any questions about today's lesson, please do not hesitate to ask me tomorrow in class, and I will see you tomorrow.